Hey guys, this is Cassie and this is my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be talking about an article I read, and this article is actually called The Politics of Children's Literature, and it's about what is wrong with the Rosa Parks myth. So basically, let me give you like a short summary about it. So basically, it's on the myth of Rosa Parks. If you guys don't know who she is the woman who boycotted the bus back in Montgomery, which is where she's from. And this was for her sitting in the colored section on the bus. And, Rosa Parks was really tired from a long day, just like everybody else. But on this particular day, she wasn't feeling very generous and didn't want to give up her seat in the colored section for a white male. And of course, the bus driver said, if you don't give up the seat, I'm going to have to call the police. And, she was very much aware of what she was doing. And she just kind of said, okay, go ahead and call them. And they called the police. Rosa Parks was arrested. And that began that movement where the word got around about what happened with Rosa Parks. And the colored people decided to go ahead and also boycott the buses, and no one was going to get on the buses until they changed this law that they had, and until colored people and white people could ride the bus together. So it's a great article if you guys have never heard of it. It's by Herbert Cole, and basically what he talks about is how they really changed a lot of like the children's books or texts about Rosa Parks. They kind of make it seem more innocent. So they don't really give you the full version of it, because again, a lot of it's based on, they're all like children's books or texts for children so that they can understand, the nicer version of it. And really this article, what it really talks about is how, how are we going to show, how are we going to teach this to our children, so how are we going to discuss this kind of topic but without glazing over it. And so I'm going to kind of give you guys some thoughts on that later based on like what I would do whenever I have my class and I'm a teacher. So some important quotes, like I have the paper here in case if you guys wonder what I'm looking at, that's what it is. So some important quotes that I found from this article. I'm going to go ahead and read it real quick. So one of the myths that they talk about is this one. So I'm going to read it real quick. So this myth says, in those days, there was still segregation in parts of the United States. That meant that African Americans and European Americans were not allowed to use the same public facilities. So what it talks about in the article is that locating segregation in the past is basically a way of avoiding dealing with its current manifestations. So it's like also implying that racism is no longer a major problem, but hello, it's still a problem, like it's very much a problem today. And I kind of think of it like history's repeating itself, but, just like, I guess over the years, it's gotten worse and worse after all of this, after the civil rights movement. And how they also describe segregation passively by saying there was still segregation instead of saying that European Americans segregated facilities so that African Americans couldn't use them. So they basically kind of talk about this they kind of tie it with Rosa Parks and how she was mistreated, and it was all, based on racism, and it wasn't really, about them following the law. It's just that racism was such a big thing back then that they glazed it with saying like, hey, this is the law, this is what we're doing, and that's just how it's gonna be. Another thing that they really talk about as far as the myth goes in the story is how they describe Rosa Parks. They describe her as a poor, tired seamstress. And it's, they talk about that and they don't talk about her role as a community leader. And how that turns an organized struggle for freedom into into a personal act of frustration. So they really kind of make it seem like, oh, she was just this person. She's just like your average seamstress, but she was poor and tired, and but she was so much more than that. She was so much more than that. And she was not just like a hero or someone that was brave, but she was such an activist. And that's another thing that we really want to talk to our students about. And along with this article, it also talks about how teachers don't know, like European American and African American as well, have this like hesitation to talk to their students about things like this, like racism and segregation, and the violent history that comes with it. So there's just like a group, like I guess a percentage that feels we shouldn't teach our children this, and then there's another percentage that feels like this could be really good, like because you want to see that change and you want to help these students understand, because these students are our future. And if they can't understand this and they can't know the full story, well, how do you expect there to be any change? And so that's kind of my little soapbox with that. That's kind of like also my opinion, like I think. My other thing, see if I can find it. So basically, with talking to your students, I believe, like I said before, I believe that the students are the future. And you don't want to really glaze over this kind of discussion. Like, I understand that, maybe kindergarten and first grade, they're not really going to understand the Rosa Parks story and what boycotting is and how that all came about. They're pretty much just going to really know her name, the color of her skin, and maybe where she came from. And that's about it. I understand that, like, over the years, as students grow older and as they, enter a new grade level, they're going to understand and learn more about Rosa Parks. But what you really want to do is have them already start knowing who she is and the story behind it more than anything. Not just about her, not just about the fact that she was an activist and, she made this huge movement, but you want the students to be a part of something also. And you want them to understand how real racism is, because I think I've seen it also in my observations that there is still racism, and you want children to know that, to not see one another based on their color, based on the hair that they have, the clothes that they wear, the way they talk, the way they act, and their lifestyle or anything like that. Like I saw actually a video earlier today, and I don't know if guys know who Ellen DeGeneres is, but I was watching Ellen DeGeneres, and she had these two people from Belgium come, and they were dancers, and I guess their dance hit 6 million views. I had never heard of this dance up until today, or seen the dance, not just heard of it, but seen it. And it was of this dance teacher who was black, but she was Belgium. And then her little dancer that was dancing with her, it was this little white girl who was like 6 or 7 years old, and she was also from Belgium. And, Ellen was interviewing them and asking them, why do you think you hit 6 million views? And, the dance teacher just was like, I just, if it's anything, it's just like really sending a positive message that, love sees no color. And in reality, that's true. Love sees no color, and you want to implement that in your students, that there is so much more to a person than the color of their skin and where they come from. I understand that that's who the person is, but you want the students to understand that how to deal with racism in a positive way and how to be there for one another on top of that. In concluding on with all of this, students don't have, when they learn about Rosa Parks, the idea isn't for them to be another Rosa Parks. You want them to view himself or herself as an activist or as a participant in something bigger than themselves, because like I said before, the students are the future, and you want them, like I said, you want them to be like part of a social movement or a community of something. And Rosa Parks' story opens up the possibilities of every child identifying herself or himself as an activist, you know, and as someone who can help make justice happen, if anything. So thank you so much for listening to my YouTube, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.